My name's Franko and I work as a librarian at Goldsmiths, University of London. I first came into contact with blood cancer as a diagnosis 5 years ago when the doctor told me I had something called multiple myeloma. I didn't initially realise it was a blood cancer because it wasn't explained to me in those terms, but during the course of the few days after that I was sent for several scans, 2 or 3 MRIs, a CT scan and a PET scan, and at that point they actually used the word cancer and said this is a form of blood cancer. I think the doctor just assumed that I would have the same knowledge that he had and therefore didn't bother to explain what it was and what it entailed and what kind of treatment I was likely to be having. Even if they told me I had a blood cancer, I think I probably would have struggled to know what that actually meant. I had no contact with any blood cancers in my life. And eventually I had to sort of sit down on the internet and look it up and see what was going on myself. And the first thing you see when you look at myeloma is that the expected survival rate is that you'll last between 4 and 7 years. I think that's the worst case scenario, and that a lot of people live a lot longer than that and live fairly normal lives for big chunks of that. I don't feel at any point as though anybody treated me like I was a human being. It felt like just somebody sitting in the bed that they wanted to tick boxes for and say I've done that treatment for them and therefore I've sent them home and they'll be okay for a little while and therefore I've done my job. So it felt very much as though you were on your own in that position where you've suddenly been told you've got a disease you've never heard of. And then eventually somewhere down the line you find out what that disease actually means for you in terms of your future. The advice I'd give somebody else who was going through blood cancer or had recently been diagnosed is to find out what support's available to them and to make contact with that support as quickly as possible. When I'd finished all of my treatment, which went on for about a year, I was on holiday and I thought, well, what do I do with the rest of my life? And the obvious answer to me was that I didn't want to have gone through all of this for nothing. And I wanted to use my experiences to somehow help other people that are going to have to go through the same thing. And one of those was to become a volunteer on the Blood Cancer UK Forum. Cancer charity forums like the Blood Cancer UK Forum provide a very valuable role in terms of being able to supply people who are feeling a bit despondent with information about what it's like to actually go through some of the treatments and processes that they're going to be going through. I've got to answer questions for people who are going through some of the things that I went through and to help them understand that there is some hope at the end of it. What they're going through is entirely normal and that therefore they don't need to be unduly worried. If you're able to make contact with other people that have gone through the same thing, it helps to reassure you that there is some sort of life and hope for people with your condition, because you've seen other people come through at the other end. We need to raise the profile of blood cancer because people are less likely to understand what is wrong with them.